Nationwide is so much more than a great insurance company. They're one of America's largest financial services companies. Like how I'm more than Saquon Barkley, the NFL's reigning leading rusher. I'm also the NFL's leading husher. Shh, hush up back there. Wow, I might have just set the hushing record. Well, almost. For your insurance and financial needs, Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Investment Services Corporation, member FINRA, Columbus, Ohio.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
Looking for these better days.
It is week 14 of the NFL season. Welcome in to another edition of the Props Pod, a joint effort between Better Day and Betting Predators. I'm Scott Seidenberg alongside Mackenzie Rivers and the mad journalist himself, Chris Dell, who provides his props and his fantasy football expertise each and every week up on his website, bettingpredators.com. Every Better Day podcast, of course, is brought to you by FanDuel. We'll be using a lot of the FanDuel odds, but as always, please shop around to find the best prop lines you can on our recommended plays. Guys, it was an exciting Thursday night game. I'm sure a lot of people hit their overs, especially on Jahmyr Gibbs and some passing props for Dak Prescott. The Lions get the big win there and improve their playoff chances, and now we advance to Week 14 Sunday. Let's get things kicked off with the New York Jets hosting the Miami Dolphins. Currently up on FanDuel right now, the Dolphins a 3-point favorite and a total of 41.5. And Mackenzie, I think a lot of people might not be giving the Jets enough credit for how much better they've played as of late.
I think you can give all of the credit to Tyrod Taylor, and not to say anything bad about Justin Fields, but he's probably been among the worst quarterbacks in the league. It's him, Cam Ward, or Shedeur Sanders, statistically, play-by-play, pick your metric, where Tyrod Taylor has a 70 QBR. Every time he's come in, and he came in earlier in the season and he's come back, he's been a lot better. And now the team seems to be, so he's been consistently like a middle-of-the-pack quarterback. Now the team is responding to him and some of the trade deadline moves that they had. I'm optimistic about this Jets team. They have a winning record, ATS-wise. That's what we care about as gamblers.
Chris, when you look at Tyrod Taylor, how much more improved this offense has been under him at quarterback instead of Justin Fields, his passing prop is at 178.5 against this Dolphins defense. Do you think he has a chance to eclipse that?
I'm not really interested in the passing props in this game. I would like to go to the receiving props, however. I think that Adonai Mitchell has clearly emerged as the wide receiver one for the Jets. This is a guy, former elite athlete. Last year in the draft, round 2 pick, kind of flamed out in Indy because of personality concerns, et cetera, et cetera. Alec Pierce kind of beat him out for that third receiver role. But when you look at his measurables coming into the draft last year, 97th percentile 40-yard dash, 98th percentile speed score, burst score, catch radius, all elite. He just needed opportunities. And anytime he's been on the field over the last 2 seasons, he's been tops in the NFL, near the top in targets per route run, which is when you're running routes, how after you're actually getting targeted, that's a true sign of skill. And now in New York, he's clearly become their top target getter with Tyrod Taylor, who is essentially really just steady Eddie in that offense. He's a competent NFL quarterback. He's not great, but he's solid, and he's not terrible, like you mentioned with Justin Fields, J.J. McCarthy, etc. So the fact we're getting a plus matchup here against the Dolphins secondary, I think 47.5 is too low. He's running all types of crosser routes, breaking routes, deep routes, etc. He's going to get targeted maybe double-digit times in this game. 47.5 to me is too low. I love him in DFS. I think he's a great ceiling play, albeit a little risky in fantasy this week for those looking to secure their first round playoff seeds. So I really like Adonai Mitchell over 47.5. I'd play that up to at least 50 this week.
Okay, good. Play it up to at least 50. Now, you can get plus money on over 4.5 receptions. Would that intrigue you, or you'd rather play lay some juice and go over 3.5?
I think I'd rather just stick to the yards. He's just
Okay.
like, the targets will be there, and I'm confident that he can break at least one or two big plays. He's been inconsistent sometimes in those targets and actually converting them to receptions overall. So if I'm just going to make one best bet, it's just going to be on Mitchell's yards.
Okay. Any thoughts on Devon Achane? I know last week he was your number one ranked running back. Devon Achane has certainly provided some cashes for people betting his props. What do you think about his chances to exceed some of his numbers here against the Jets?
I usually stay away from guys who are totaled that high in the prop market, 83.5 rushing yards. You look at his rushing receiving yards, 118.5. I'll pass on those. He's my number one ranked overall fantasy player again this week. It's a very good matchup. I think when you look at both of these defenses, they're nothing great, so the matchups are okay on paper, but you don't know if you can really trust the offenses to take advantage. Technically, the Dolphins have not been eliminated from the playoffs either, so this is a very important game for them. Division game obviously here. But I think that Tua going on the road in the cold weather, this Jets defense, I think, is maybe a little underrated, and they might cause him some issues. So I think it could also be a big Breece Hall game as well. I don't know. I think Breece Hall's numbers are a little too high in my opinion, but I think maybe like a Breece Hall even money anytime touchdown score, maybe that could be a way to play it.
Okay. Let's move on to the Seattle Seahawks at the Atlanta Falcons. Seattle a 6.5-point favorite at Atlanta. Mackenzie, you and I have talked about how great the Seahawks have been on the road under head coach Mike Macdonald. This feels like a spot where, I mean, if we're going power rating wise, it feels like maybe Seattle should be laying more here against Atlanta.
I could see that argument. They're number one in scoring margin, number one in a lot of advanced metrics as well as the simple ones. However, I'm starting to see cracks in the armor of one player in particular that I think is going to put a pretty low ceiling on their season, and that's Sam Darnold. We know Sam Darnold throughout his career has obviously gotten a lot better. Last year was his best year ever until this year, and this year's his best year ever. If he's had weaknesses, it's been against the blitz. It's been lack of ability to kind of adjust. He doesn't have the same mobility as some players, and he doesn't have the processing speed of some players. He's more of a system quarterback. He's a good backup on the 49ers like Mac Jones. Can come in there, although he never really got a chance with the 49ers. That's where he kind of turned his career around. The Falcons blitz the second most of any team in the league. I think their defense might be a little bit underrated after losing some close games. Wasn't their fault. The team that blitzes the most is the Minnesota Vikings. Sam Darnold had his worst game of the season last week, despite the win, from a QBR perspective against that blitz. So I see some of the same here. The more I look at this game, I'm not a big fan of Kirk Cousins right now, although he's steady Eddie at the 25th best quarterback in the league. I think under 44.5 is my favorite play on the board there.
Would you maybe lean towards any specific team total to go under, or you just like the full game to go under?
I think I like the game under more because we talked about the Falcons team total under, and I think if I had to pick between the Falcons team total under and the Seahawks, I like the Seahawks in the game. I think 7's pretty short, so that would be a way to get at it. But if I'm worried about so much about the Seahawks offense that I'm not laying the 7, why not just bet the under?
Yeah. Chris, you look at a couple of players here in this game. You have Bijan Robinson, who's averaging an NFL-leading 6.4 yards per touch. And Jackson Smith-Njigba, who became the fourth, he has the fourth most receiving yards before December in NFL history. Like, it's unbelievable the season that he has put up. Where are you attacking this game from a prop perspective?
Yeah, I do think there's a little bit of value. I still got to look at things, but Bijan 66.5 seems pretty low. Obviously, this Seahawks defense isn't the most efficient in the world, but in a game where they're 7-point home dogs, you're in a dome at home, in games that the Falcons trail, Bijan's snap rate versus Tyler Algier goes through the roof. They really only rotate them when it's a neutral game script or when the Falcons are leading. So if Bijan's on the field for a lot, like they were, like for example last week when they were trailing at the Jets, 23 carries, 142 rushing yards, had 7 targets, 51 receiving yards. He's now had at least 70 rushing yards in 4 straight games. In 2 of those, he's gone over 100, and in 3 of those, he's had at least 84. So I think against this Seahawks very good defense, obviously. I would say they're above average against the run, but they're really above average in all categories. So I think an explosive player like Bijan, there could be some value there. I haven't bet it yet, but it's something I'm definitely looking at. And then I want to see what happens. Drake London was officially ruled out just in the last half hour before we started recording, so I'm not seeing too many lines, but I'd be interested in looking at Kyle Pitts, possibly receptions over. He's essentially become the Kirk Cousins' number 1 receiver in the passing game because Darnell Mooney's essentially just like a boomer bust deep threat and now on the outside. So I would be interested in going back to Kyle Pitts, who had a big reception target game last week. I think when it comes to the passing here, we've been betting Sam Darnold under passing attempts a lot. I think this is a game where, again, like in a dome, only 7-point favorites. He could throw a little more just to maybe get him on track a little bit here. The Falcons also are a little bit of a pass funnel type of defense. But I think Kirk Cousins against this vaunted Seahawks secondary pass defense could be some value going back to his under yards as well. Kirk Cousins 199.5. And if you can find a couple extra yards boost there on Kirk Cousins passing and rushing under, I've been playing that the last couple times I bet his unders because usually it's like 4 or 5 yards higher. And he's only averaging like 2 rushing yards per game. In most games, he's not rushing for anything here, especially against this pass rush. So those are a couple ways I'd look to attack the Falcons right now.
All right, I like that a lot, actually. Let's move on to our next game here. It's going to be the New Orleans Saints at the Tampa Bay Bucks. Tampa up to an 8.5-point favorite right now up on FanDuel. Total of 41.5. Still no Mike Evans for the Bucks. They're hoping that they're going to get him back soon. But Bucky Irving came back and looked pretty good for them in his return. Mackenzie, I think any positivity that surrounded Tyler Shuck in this Saints offense has completely faded now.
It has. It tends to happen when you're not trying to win games, like they're pretty clearly not trying to do. That's the whole reason why Tyler Shuck is in there. If anything defined the first half of the season, it was Spencer Rattler being slightly better than expected for them, and they still made the switch, and Tyler Shuck has been, worse across the board. I think I like the under in this game, too, because I think Baker Mayfield might be closer to an average quarterback than we've been giving him credit for. He had week 1, that comeback win against the Falcons, comeback win against the Jets a couple weeks later. The last, really since the bye, I look at our weekly PFF QBR composite, he's been the 15th best quarterback in the league on a week-in, week-out basis. Is that enough to lay 8.5 here? I'm not sure. I'm looking at both offenses to struggle.
Okay, yeah, Tyler Shuck, he does, though, lead all rookie starting quarterbacks with a 68.2 completion percentage. But then again, he's going up against Cam Ward.
Yeah, who's number 2? Who's
Shedeur
number 2 on
Sanders
that list?
and Dylan Gabriel.
Hasn't been a great year.
So, yeah, exactly. Chris, Alvin Kamara done, and so Devin Neal takes over as the starting running back here for the New Orleans Saints. Last week, 14 carries, 47 rushing yards. His prop this week is about 39.5. Shop around. You might be able to find better than that. Going up against a very talented Bucs defense, what do you think about Devin Neal in this Saints offense?
It's a tough Bucs run defense, but very beatable pass defense, and that's how I'll be looking to play this matchup here. Probably the number 1 pass funnel defense in the league when you look at the discrepancy between rush defense and pass defense. So I could only look under for rushing yards for Neal. Not sure if I'm going to play it. It's already pretty low for a guy bordering on that kind of 15 carry touch range per game. I think I'll more or less want to look at the passing game here. When you look at the targeted concentration of targets here, Chris Olave, Juwan Johnson, Devon Vele. Devon Vele kind of had a little breakout. They've been meaning to play him more since they traded for him earlier in the season. I look at his reception total, 3.5. I also look at Juwan Johnson at 4.5. I look at Chris Olave at 5.5. He's a little bit healthier. Last week he was banged up coming off a back injury during the week where he missed practice. So those guys, you look at the concentration, 31 targets for Tyler Shuck last week. They had 21 of those 31 targets. The next highest player had 4. I might just bet them across the board to exceed their reception prop totals. And I'd be interested to look at Chris Godwin here as well. He saw a big elevation. His snap count, his route count looked really good. Had a big potential touchdown dropped. I think he'll clean those things up. I think the most important thing for Godwin is that he looks healthy. And the Saints are also a little bit of a pass funnel defense here too. So I think Godwin last week, three targets, 3 catches, 79 yards. I'll bet him over 38.5 yards this week. And I think they'll continue to kind of not force feed him the ball, but get him involved where you could see like a 1A, 1B situation between Emeka Egbuka and Chris Godwin. And I also think that the more that Godwin gets involved and has success, I think the more things that'll be freed up for Egbuka as well. He's been struggling a little bit late in fantasy, but the targets have been there, and he's a talented player. So I think even 55.5 for him is a little bit too low here. Today we had officially Mike Evans and Jalen McMillan both ruled out. So those are some of the ways I look to attack in terms of both these being pass funnel defenses here. Probably this game I'll have a lot of overs.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
Let's move on to the Washington Commanders at the Minnesota Vikings. And we've had a flip of the line, Mackenzie, with the announcement that Jaden Daniels is back at quarterback for the Commanders. Commanders are now a 1.5-point favorite at Minnesota over the Vikings. Also, it looks like J.J. McCarthy will be back as he cleared concussion protocol. I don't know if that's an upgrade or a downgrade from the terrific performance we saw from Max Brosmer last week from the Vikings. Just know that over the last 2 weeks, between J.J. McCarthy and Max Brosmer, they had a worse quarterback rating than if you just dropped back and snapped and spiked the football into the ground every single play of the game for a quarterback. So Vikings now a home dog. What do you think, Mackenzie? Does Jaden Daniels and the Commanders get a road win here?
What if I told you that soon to be fired, everyone's done with them, bud of the joke of the league, Mike McDaniel, had a better ATS record, the thing that gamblers care about, than the sainted Kevin O'Connell that can make magic out of any quarterback? It's just not true. He could have had me throw the ball into the ground every single time, and his offense would have been just as good, just as productive, produced just as many wins the last 2 weeks. I think the bloom is off the rose. I don't think he's that good, and I think the team and the league is starting to realize it. I like the Commanders almost always better on the road than at home. Jaden Daniels back, and it might seem like a big upgrade to go from a third-round quarterback to a first-round, or a third-string quarterback to your first-round quarterback that you shifted off a Pro Bowler for in Sam Darnold. But I don't think the numbers are there to support that J.J. McCarthy's more than a half a point better than anybody, even me, coming off the street. Not that I can play quarterback. Jaden Daniels laying a short number here, I think is the way to go. I like the Commanders here.
Speaking of Jaden Daniels, Chris, I want to go under his rushing yardage prop. It's at 38.5 right now up on FanDuel. As always, shop around and see what numbers you can get here. But first game back off the injury, I don't expect for him to be running the football a lot. And I think that maybe the Commanders might want to protect him and not call as many designed runs as they would normally have if he was 100%. But also, like, this Vikings defense just doesn't allow quarterbacks to run for that many yards. Week 1, Caleb Williams rushed for 58 yards against them. The only other time they allowed more than 38 rushing yards to an opposing quarterback, Justin Herbert had 7 carries for 62 yards against them. That's it. Every other game, it has been under this 38-yard mark here that we are seeing for Jaden Daniels. What do you think about going under Jaden Daniels' rushing yards?
I like the angle. I was even thinking about the passing attempts, just like, you know, trying to ease his workload overall and really kind of pound the rock a little bit if they can, which I think they absolutely can against an inept offense and inept quarterback. We've seen Chris Rodriguez 3 of the last 4 weeks has had 11 or more carries. His rushing attempt prop is 10.5. I kind of like that over a little bit. He's emerged over Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt in that backfield. And I think, again, like in a game where you're in the dome here in Minnesota, it's a tight spread. You're on the road. You just want to get out with a win, keep your quarterback healthy. I think I agree at least that the number juiced over is correct for that prop. And receiving wise, yeah, it's just like I think maybe I would just go to JJ McCarthy unders because I don't know how much the Vikings want to put the ball in his hands either. So I mean, maybe Justin Jefferson finally catches a long pass. Maybe it's Addison. Maybe it's both. Maybe they both catch long passes and kind of like break that, kind of get the schneid off there. But I still think that McCarthy will struggle here. A month ago, this would have looked like a smash spot for the Vikings offense, but the Commanders came off the bye and their defense looked semi-respectable against the Broncos in primetime last week. So I think I would just have to look at McCarthy unders, Jaden Daniels unders, and maybe look at Chris Rodriguez over the rushing attempts. And it'd be really kind of tricky for me to look anywhere else in terms of receiving props in this game, given how much uncertainty we have with Jaden Daniels coming off the injury and McCarthy coming off just being an absolute terrible quarterback.
The Indianapolis Colts go to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Colts are 1.5-point road favorites. Mac, you and I have talked about this before. Indy has lost 9 straight games in Jacksonville. I think they make it 10 straight. I'm on the Jaguars in this game.
It's crazy that the market has given no credence to this. I mean, I guess it's not crazy because we know algorithms have to be manually adjusted, which no bookmaker wants to do. And then they're just going to set the line based on their numbers. Colts have been better this year. I would even argue that point before we even get to the history of Jacksonville hosting the Colts, which is remarkable. They've had similar numbers, and the Jaguars have the 5th hardest strength of schedule in the league, where the Colts have top 10 easiest. So I think even saying the Colts have been better this year is probably true, but somewhat of a tenuous proposition. And then you get to the fact that the Colts have lost 9 straight in Jacksonville. If you would have just moneyline parlayed all of those games.
You mean rollover?
It's much better than 9 coin flips because they were as big as 10, 14-point dogs when the Colts needed the playoffs in Carson Wentz last game for Indianapolis, and they just lose and lose and lose. I don't know if it's in the water. I don't know if they're ringing the alarms in Duval County when they're trying to go to sleep. Whatever they're doing, it's working. And if it was like Jags -2, I'd be like, all right, the market's adjusted. But it's zero adjustment to this 9-0 trend. I think it's a mistake.
Yeah, division standings up for grabs as well. How do you see this one going down here, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, it's an important game, obviously, division game. I think that both teams, I think the Colts really will try to run Jonathan Taylor as much as they can here. Earlier in the season, the Jaguars looked like one of those beatable pass funnel secondaries, but they've really stepped it up as of late, where quarterbacks have struggled to get against them, even when it really looked like easy beatable spots going into the games. So I'm a little hesitant on the Colts just being able to throw all over them like I would have thought a month ago here. I think we saw Alec Pierce get back on track as the number 1 receiver for this team. He had a couple tough matchups he struggled against. I lean over his 53.5 receiving yards right now. I think on the other side of things, Jacoby Myers has emerged as the number 1 receiver for the Jaguars. They traded a high pick for him. I think they're going to look to keep him next year as well. Brian Thomas has just been a massive disappointment this season. No Parker Washington this week. I think will funnel more targets in the direction of everyone, but specifically to Brenton Strange and to Jacoby Myers. So I might look at both of them over on their receptions in this game. I think they could wind up, combining for maybe 50% of Trevor Lawrence's targets in this matchup at the very least. So those are some things I'm looking at. And I think with Daniel Jones, like he's another example of like he's playing on a broken leg, a fractured fibula. Like I can't stress how bad that is, but they kept him in the pocket and threw a lot last week. I think they're going to continue to do that. So I would maybe look at pass rush yards combined again under if we get that prop. And then also with him, if there's any rushing yards prop on Daniel Jones, I might look to that again as well because those did end up hitting last week.
Yeah, we cashed that easily last week with the Daniel Jones rushing plus passing yards going under. About the Jonathan Taylor stuff, though, no player this season has ran for 70 yards against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Wow. That's how good this Jaguars defense has been. No player has rushed for 70 yards against them. And so you're looking at the rushing prop here for Jonathan Taylor. 93.5 is just a little bit absurd. That a little bit absurd.
Have they
here.
played any good running backs? Because that's a pretty shocking number when you look at it.
The Jags this season. Let's take a look. So as the number one running backs they played against, week 1 it was Chuba Hubbard, not Rico Dowdle back then. Chase Brown in week 2. Week 3 it was still Nick Chubb for the Texans, right? Or no, in week 3 it was Nick Chubb was for the Texans. 49ers and Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey in that game ran for 49 rushing yards. Let's see, against the Chiefs. So you had it was the leading rusher was Mahomes with 60 yards.
Yeah. Bad rushing attack, by the way, in KC, Houston.
Yeah.
I see a lot of split backfields on here. So, I don't know. That could be a little misleading.
The best running attack that they faced would be the Rams, and Kyren Williams had 54 yards. And the Rams have the best run blocking offensive line in football, and the Jaguars held Kyren Williams to 54 yards.
But they lost 35-7.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, when we're betting props, Chris, we don't care who wins the game.
Yeah, right. I'm just okay.
All right, let's move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson will play for Baltimore. Ravens 5.5-point favorites. The line doesn't move based off of Lamar missing practice earlier in the week because everyone knows that he's still going to play, and it is looks to be official. He is going to play here. Total is 43.5. And Mackenzie, you can just talk to the history of Harbaugh and Tomlin and the underdogs in this matchup.
Yeah. It makes sense to bet the underdogs when 20 out of 40 games in the Tomlin-Harbaugh rivalry era, been 20 years now, almost 19 years, 20 out of the 40 games have been decided by a field goal or less. That's an astounding number when you think about it. There's a lot of numbers on the number line that it could be. Within 3, essentially down to the buzzer, has been 50% of games. So it's favored dogs. Mike Tomlin, just by himself, 13-5-1 ATS as a dog in this matchup. For the last few years, it's really been, statistically, Lamar Jackson, the Ravens, they're rolling, number 1 power-rated team in the league or thereabouts, but you can't you can't, throw out the baby with the bathwater when it comes to this rivalry and how much it means in Tomlin, etc. This year, the Ravens don't really have that case, and then all the old-school handicapping trends also still point to the Steelers. Given all that, though, I'm not putting my money on Aaron Rodgers right now. I think there's trouble there. I think this is going to be the first season where they end up under 500. But the trends point to the Steelers here.
Yeah. Chris, we have seen the number go down significantly on Lamar Jackson rushing yards because this thing has been a cash cow, right? It's at 25.5 right now up on FanDuel. Would you still consider going under?
These offenses are so bad right now. Could certainly see it with this division rivalry here. Lamar Jackson's clearly not 100%. He had the ankle issue. He's had other issues this past season as well. Aaron Rodgers, as we know, we talked about Daniel Jones. We know he's playing with a broken leg. We know Aaron Rodgers is playing with a broken wrist. Like, these things matter, and it's why we hit our Aaron Rodgers unders last week as well. So I would almost have to go back. Like, I think this is going to be a run-heavy game script plan for both teams here. And I would have to look again at Aaron Rodgers under his passing attempts. I would maybe look at the touchdown market for the running backs, Derrick Henry, Jaylen Warren, which is actually near plus 200 from what I was looking at earlier as well. DK Metcalf has been reduced to almost 0 in the passing game here. I've got him really far below consensus in my fantasy rankings going into week 14. I would even consider looking at his under 45.5 receiving yards. Zay Flowers, another extremely disappointing fantasy player. 0 efficiency in that passing game. I would look to his under 57.5 receiving yards as well here. I think you're going to see a lot of runs and the clock moving very fast because of those runs here, which I think could definitely help lead to an under overall for the game.
Yeah, it could be that way. I mean, we've seen it before where it's like you look up and all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, the game's over. Like how is this the first game to finish, right? And it's because the clock just keeps moving and the teams just keep running the football, and so it could be an angle to attack here. in this game. I might just be interested in going under Lamar passing plus rushing yards combo just to get those little extra yards like we talked about with some quarterbacks before, because he has not been good. It's now 3 straight games where he hasn't even accounted for a touchdown, rushing or passing. And now, the rushing yards number is being taxed a little bit because everyone keeps winning on going under every single week with Lamar Jackson. So the fact that this number has gotten low to the point where it's 25.5 now, maybe stay off of it and do a combo rushing and passing yards to go under for Lamar Jackson. Let's move on to the Tennessee Titans taking on the Cleveland Browns in what I called earlier this week, the Toilet Bowl. Cleveland is a 3.5-point favorite, total of 33.5. That's how much faith you have in these offenses. Mackenzie, you see a total of 33.5. Can you go under?
Historically, yes. Yes, you can. In the modern era, when you see a total this low, going under is actually the way to go. Now, 22-7 since 2021 of a total under 35. If you're going under, 31st and 30th in EPA since week 7, pretty much right there. The Browns and the Titans, pretty much right there on the season, actually slightly worse, 32nd and 31st. Yeah. Good luck, Chris, finding some fun props to go, but not a lot of points expected in this one for a reason.
Well, can we just bet Myles Garrett sacks props? Chris,
right, that's the fun bet. That's the entertainment factor. When you're watching this game, you want defense because that's what's actually happening on the field.
Like, he's going to sack Cam Ward. Cam Ward's been the most pressured quarterback this season. Like, he's going to get a sack. The question is, is he going to get multiple sacks? That's the thing, because I was looking up on FanDuel, and they have 1.75 sacks, right? Which is like DraftKings or other books might have 1.5 where you can get the push on the line. This with 1.75, there is no push. So in order to win this bet, Myles Garrett has to have 2 sacks in this game, but you do get plus 125 for him to get the 2 sacks in this game. I think it's possible against Cam Ward and this offensive line, Chris.
Does anyone offer the team sacks anymore?
I don't think I've seen it. Maybe for a Super Bowl, yeah, but I don't think on a regular game-to-game basis, I don't think we've seen team sacks.
I remember Bet365 used to offer it, but I don't remember seeing it for a couple of years. If anyone listening or reading knows anywhere where you can bet team sack props, I would definitely be interested in that for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking at, let's see, game specials. No. Any props that you would play? This game is just ugly.
I think it's a lot of unders. I mean, sometimes the unders make sense here. I think the only thing I would really look over for is rushing attempts. Maybe for Jaylen Warren seems a little bit too low at 13.5. The Steelers, both these teams want to grind out a win here, and they're not confident in their quarterbacks. And it's a very important game here. The playoff odd probabilities will shift a ton for both of these teams, whether they win or lose here.
You mean the draft possibilities?
You mean the draft possibility, the draft probabilities?
Like the playoffs in 10, 15 years from now?
No, like making the playoffs. Their chance to make the playoffs odds will shift a lot based off this game.
The Browns and the Titans?
And the Browns?
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad, guys. I was looking at. I thought we were still talking about the Steelers and Ravens here.
Oh, no, that is an important game. We care about that result.
Yes,
no,
that one is very important. Yeah. Yes, that one will. One will factor. This one might be for draft stock. I mean, for draft.
I was stuck looking at a bunch of unders, and I totally missed you transferring to the Titans and Browns game. So my apologies.
I cannot be mad at you for tuning out Titans Browns.
Yeah. You're absolutely right about that. I mean, yeah, you have to go unders for this game. I think the only way you can look, very similar to the Steelers and Ravens game. I think.
In fact, I have the exact same handicap ready to go.
Yeah, Judkins. Judkins should have a great game here. I think Judkins overs in the rushing, long rush, touchdown. I know Pollard did go over his rushing prop last week. I would go back to the under again here. Tajay Spears has been getting 10 yards max per game on the ground. They're not using him as a rusher at all. I've been betting Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears unders for the last month, and we've hit about 80% of those. I'm going to keep going back to those here. I'll go to Cam Ward unders, Shedeur Sanders unders. It's going to be a lot of unders in this game, maybe even more than the Steelers and Ravens game.
All right, Mackenzie, would you do this bet, yes or no? I found it on DraftKings. Cleveland Browns to win with a shutout, plus 1,600.
Ooh.
Wow.
I wonder if you didn't give me the odds, what I would guess.
Okay. Would you bet that?
The Titans.
Come on,
the Titans.
Is this a 10-0 win?
I'm scared of a Shedeur turnover converted into a Joey Sly 47.
Or like a DK punt return touchdown, right?
Yes,
So the Titans-
that too. That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Titans have been shut out once this year versus the Texans.
Yeah, but how many games have their offense been shut out? Because like they scored, remember they had special team scores too.
Yeah, but those, I mean, they're not any less likely to get that
Sure,
versus
you're
the
right.
Browns.
You're right.
I mean, they've had two of the worst seasons in NFL history, and they have one time they've been shut out. So that's what, 30 games, one
Yeah.
shutout. I think
Yeah.
you can't bet 16-1.
Okay, all right. Can't bet 16-1. We'll see. Well, remember they had the offense. Forget about that because like they were held to just a field goal in the last game against the Jaguars. They had the game earlier in the season where they got a special teams touchdown that was their only like offensive score. So yeah, just an ugly football game. I'm done talking about this game, guys.
Can you go like imply like the implied team total for the Titans is 15? Like, can't you go like under 13.5? Like, get an alt line at plus money there. I would definitely be.
Now
into
that's
that.
fun. Now that's fun. Let's do
that's
that. So Titans team total up on FanDuel is 15.5.
Whew.
Let's see if
Way
we
too
go alternate. Can we do alternate team totals? I know we can do first half alternates and yeah. So like first
They
half.
got to have that. Let's see.
Look for the.
All right,
team
at
props.
another unnamed book,
Yeah.
send us money if you want us to name you. You can bet under
Go
10
under
and a
10 and
half
a half.
plus 170.
Okay.
So you win on a 10. That's nice.
Yeah, I like that. Under 10.5 plus 170.
Yeah, because they've had a bunch
That's,
of games
that's-
the last two terrible years, 10 and under, including three
I like
last
it.
week.
All right, let's go with it. Yep.
Just betting the team total under in general, I think, is a great bet at 15.5.
Sure. We love that. Okay, next game here on the board. Let's talk about the Cincinnati Bengals at the Buffalo Bills, where Buffalo is a 5.5 point favorite, total of 53.5. Mac, you were explaining something on our Football Friday pod about how this line didn't make sense to you just based off of what it was in the offseason looking ahead to this
I
matchup.
tracked the May lines and then updated in July. Not much change because nothing happens in the summer. But you could have bet when the Cincinnati Bengals were right there with the Ravens to be winners of the AFC North. They were supposed to be a playoff team. You could have bet the Bills minus 5.5 in Week 14 hosting the Bengals. What's happened? Yeah, you could argue the Bills have disappointed. I mean, they're still first in non-turnover EPA, which is nice. They're fifth in scoring margin. You could say they were supposed to be a top 3 team and they're a top 5 team, sure. Downgrade them a point. Someone will have to explain to me how this line is the same, because the Bengals have downgraded more than a point. With or without Joe Burrow, they weren't supposed to have the worst defense in history, 32nd in every major stat. They weren't supposed to have Joe Burrow only play 2 games and maybe not be 100% of his capabilities. Like, you could say he's still Joe Burrow, but it's not like he lit the world on fire against the Ravens. It was mostly, the Ravens messing up more than him being back to his old self. So I think you have to downgrade the Bengals 2 to 3 points for the whole breadth of the season, maybe more than that. The Bills are pretty much what I thought they were. This is my favorite side of the week. I just don't get the line. I feel like it's too much respect even for Joe Burrow. Laying less than 6 here, come on. Give me the Bills.
Okay. Last week, the Bills were playing without their 2 tackles, Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown. Both were limited in practice this week, so maybe you get one, if not both of them, back in this game. And, Chris, that affected the way that they called plays.
Yeah.
So the Bills have ran 5 wide receivers at the highest rate in the NFL this season. But last week, without their tackles, they played more heavy personnel. Right, so they actually sent out 5 wide at the fewest rate that they had under Joe Brady as the offensive coordinator. So clearly, last week their strategy on offense was impacted by the injuries on the offensive line. If we think they revert back with those tackles possibly being back this week, and they revert back to the strategy that we've seen for the rest of the season, would you expect a much better passing performance here from Josh Allen?
Yeah, but they've been pretty conservative regardless for most of the season. We talked about that betting previous props with Josh Allen under passing attempts. I do think the Bengals should get a little more credit here just in terms of like it's do or die for them, a little bit of the motivational factor. Getting Burrow back, I think, lifts the spirit to the offense and the team in general. I mean, technically, if like they lose, they're done, but they really also kind of have nothing to lose here. I kind of like the Bengals a little bit to be competitive, and I actually think the total's too high. I think 53.5 is like, we're thinking of like 2 years ago when it was like prime Burrow, prime Josh Allen. I think the weapons have deteriorated for Josh Allen over that time. Dalton Kincaid could come back. I think that's a big deal. We don't know yet. He's been practicing all week in a limited fashion. The Bengals are historically bad against tight ends. They're also bad against slot receivers and running backs. So I think what you're going to see is a lot of Khalil Shakir, a lot of James Cook, and a lot of Dalton Kincaid if he plays. But if Kincaid doesn't play, I think that definitely could kind of turtle the offense a little bit, even if we get those offensive linemen back. I think the offensive linemen will really do more for James Cook's efficiency on the ground than anything. And he did well even without them against the Steelers last week. So, and I thought the Bengals defense actually didn't look all that terrible against Baltimore last week.
They had the best game of the season.
Yeah,
I'm just going to say they're still the worst defense in the league.
They are, but if they can be like not the worst defense in NFL history,
yeah, right, that's progress
versus just the worst defense in 2025, that is a lie. I mean, speaking as a Bengals fan here, you saw the difference. They do have a lot of young players on that defense, right? Like a lot of previous first, second round draft picks over the last couple of years. First year DC and Al Golden, maybe he's made some midseason improvements as well. Not saying they're going to even become a mediocre defense, but those are some things that I've noticed personally. So I don't know. With all that said, this might just be one of those games I stay away from prop wise, like two high profile offenses, quarterbacks. I could see a wide range of outcomes here in the total. I just really do think 53.5 is a little bit too high given all the injuries for Buffalo and given Burrow just being back for 2 weeks here.
Okay. It seems like an interesting way to attack this football game. Let's talk about the Denver Broncos at the Las Vegas Raiders. The last time we saw these two teams play, it was the Thursday night game where the Broncos had every advantage in the world in that game and should have blown out the Raiders. Remember, that was the trend with the Raiders coming off the overtime game on Sunday, then having to travel 2 Mile High to play that game on a Thursday against the Broncos, and it was a 10-9 finish. Broncos 7.5-point favorites here at Allegiant Stadium, Mackenzie.
I believe it was 10-7. I had that game in Survivor, and I
10-7,
I also had the Broncos laying 9.5. And it's funny, that trend is undefeated since. The trend's like 7 straight winners, except for this game, and that was a bet of mine. All the reasons outside of the Thursday night hangover for the Raiders that I thought the Broncos would dominate the Raiders is still true. The Broncos have been especially good at shutting down bad offenses. The Raiders, we mentioned the Browns and the Titans being 31st and 30th since week 7, even though they're usually the worst two in the league. The Raiders crashed that party. They are the worst offense since week 7 when you remove turnovers from an EPA perspective. I know the Broncos don't have any covers as big favorites on the road. I think they change that eventually. I was wrong with the Commanders. I'm going right back to the well here. I think they win this game 10.
It feels like there's nothing to trust about this Raiders team. In that game against the last time these two teams played, it was a good angle to attack the Ashton Genty props. And I mean, listen, going under Genty has just been like just great to do anyway, right? Because the guy's not getting anything on the ground. He did have 60 yards on 19 carries in that game. Now we're looking at his props here this week. What do you think, Chris? I'm seeing Ashton Genty lined up right now at 52.5 yards. Wow. So this number has just been going down every week.
Yeah, I can only look under for rushing for Genty. Might even be interested in looking at his receiving overs in the reception market because he's been getting targeted a ton over the last couple of weeks here, especially with the new play caller as well. We're seeing the line for Genty at 4.5. I think there could be some value there and getting a lot of those easy checkdowns, trying to avoid as many Geno Smith sacks as possible. I'd be interested in looking at Geno unders again here. We, like you said, we've seen these two teams play somewhat recently here. I do think RJ Harvey, like I lost on betting his over rushing prop last week against Washington, but he still had very good usage, still played a lot of snaps. I think I'm going to go back to that again. I think he can break off a long one here. I like R.J. Harvey in the touchdown market. He could score through the air or on the ground. I don't know if the Broncos are going to need to throw much here. I don't know if the Raiders are going to be able to press them to really put their foot on the pedal offensively. So I like R.J. Harvey, and I like Raiders unders, and that's kind of how I'm going to attack this game.
What a great live bet that we hit in that game with the Jaleel McLaughlin going over. So against the which game was that? The last Broncos game,
Commanders,
right? So the Broncos Commanders games. So it was, I think it was at the half when Sean Payton goes in to the interview right before the end of the half, and he says we got to run the ball more, right? And so I'm like, well, you know something? McLaughlin's number is so low. It's at 17 and a half. He had one carry. And I'm like, he could easily go over this. Like, he's one carry, and this guy can go for double digits. And we only need, we only need like 11 yards or whatever to get this. Anyway, he gets a carry for 14 yards to start the third quarter, and it goes over right away. It was like the first play of the third quarter, and you're like, thanks, Sean Payton. Good cash on that, bro. So he finished with 6 carries for 24 yards in that game.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
Let's talk about the Chicago Bears at the Green Bay Packers. Packers 6.5-point favorites, Mackenzie, total of 44.5. The Bears their record's great. Are they great? I mean, I don't know. They finally have a positive point differential, so that's a good sign for them.
It's progress. Let me just pull up the trend that I've talked to about, and I think it's notable. Since 1993, I've been alive, and the Bears have been alive, and I've been saying the Bears are terrible, and everyone in my close-knit community in Chicago has been like, yeah, they're pretty bad. No, they're terrible as a franchise, and no part of the year is exposed more than when they go to Lambeau. Since 1993, they fired Mike Ditka, the only guy that ever won a Super Bowl for them. They are 21-44 ATS, 15-50 straight up versus the Packers, because the Packers have a nice, loving community there, and they support their team, and they care, and when you stop at the gas station, they're like, hey, go get them, Brett, and they believe. We're in Chicago, they're like, man, Jay, why you get out of here? There is no love for the Bears in Chicago. They want them to lose this game. They want to hate their team. Even if they don't admit it, I know what's in their heart, and I have the stats to prove it. 70% ATS betting the Packers in this spot. I think it makes for a convincing case. And then you get into the numbers, and the Bears have the third worst defense in football, and their offense and Caleb Williams have been more shoddy than their record suggests. And I think reality hits Chicago again this winter.
You know, Chris, Caleb Williams has been running the ball a lot more often lately. His prop is at 18.5 yards. Is that a number that intrigues you?
I'm more intrigued in buying into the just rushing game in general in terms of the Bears over the last 4 weeks have a minus 3.3 pass rate over expectation. They've been bordering in that top 10 in the league in terms of situation neutral run rate. And you've seen a lot of efficiency go the ways of both Swift and Kyle Mongai. That's essentially a 50-50 split / hot hand situation there. I think given that, the fact that both of them are like, plus 170 to score for Swift, plus 190 to score a touchdown from a Mongai, I like that. I think I can bet both of those confidently there and at least one of those hits. Caleb, I don't know. I just I feel like I never have a good read on the quarterback rushing props. I don't know how the Green Bay defense really fits that, whether for better or for worse there. But it certainly is intriguing. Like when he does get out in the pocket and scramble, he looks like one of the fastest quarterbacks in the league for sure. Caleb hasn't really been that good this year, especially efficiency and accuracy wise. But the one thing he's done very well is not turn the ball over, and he's going to need to continue to do that here in this game. Obviously, Packers a little more motivation with the shit talk from Ben Johnson earlier this week. I think that might mean something a little bit here for a division game. I have a hard time believing that the Bears are truly like as good as a 9-3 team should be, 9-4, whatever the record is here. So I tend to think the Packers are the better team still. But I don't know. It's going to be tough prop wise because I think both these teams, the way they prefer to win is on the ground. But can one of these teams build a big lead and force the other team to drop back and throw more than usual? I think that's going to be a key to betting props in this game.
A couple more games here to get to. The Rams are at the Cardinals. Rams are 8.5-point road favorites up on FanDuel. The Cardinals getting the announcement that Kyler Murray is done for the season. So I don't think anybody really expected him to come back. But the question is now, have we seen the last of Kyler Murray in an Arizona Cardinals uniform? I mean, probably, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah. So, Mackenzie, you look at this game. Rams are laying a big number here on the road. Jacoby Brissett has been competitive in these games. The Rams are coming off of a game where they lost at Carolina. Can they bounce back on the road here again?
Yeah. You look at the best two teams in football by almost any metric has been the Seahawks and the Rams this year. Seahawks win 26-0. Rams lose to the Panthers. Knee-jerk reaction is we upgrade the Seahawks, they're slightly better. We downgrade the Rams. I'd say if you dig into the numbers, the Seahawks and their offense were particularly bad in that win, and the Rams' offense was particularly good despite the loss against the Panthers. They were the number one EPA team per play if you ignore turnovers. Of course, you can't ignore turnovers. Stafford had 2, including a pick 6 and a fumble. But we know Matthew Stafford for 18 years is a high-quality quarterback, if not the best in the league, around top 5. Nearly his whole career, and he's going to bounce back from that. I have no question that he's not going to suddenly become a turnover-prone player. So I think the Rams deserve a slight upgrade for another great offensive performance on the road. Things happen. It's not a perfectly round ball. They happen to lose, but I upgraded them after last week.
Okay. Chris, Michael Wilson took over as the number one target here for Jacoby Brissett when Marvin Harrison Jr. went down. He had the 2 monster games where we played his overs and literally rocking chair winners, 185 yards, 118 yards on 15 catches and 10 catches. Last week, Harrison comes back, 3 catches for 36 yards for Michael Wilson, but now Harrison is out once again. Do we go back to the well with Michael Wilson props? His receiving number, I'm seeing 65.5 yards.
Yeah, I am for sure receiving yards and catches here. The Cardinals are going to throw the ball all over the yard. At least we saw, and I agree with what Mackenzie said earlier about me really not changing my opinion at all on how good the Rams are. I think they're still clear Super Bowl favorites here. But their defense did show some vulnerability, which makes you like this game a little bit more for fantasy, for DFS. The fact that, Brissett still can maintain his efficiency and high pass rate in this game. The Cardinals are number 1 in the NFL in pass rate over expectation over the last 4 weeks. Guess who's number 2? The Los Angeles Rams. The Cardinals are 7.8% above. Rams are 7.2% above. The next highest team in the league is the Patriots at 5.1%. So I think we're going to see both quarterbacks have a lot of efficiency throwing the ball through the air here. Obviously, Brissett likely in a negative game script. But yeah, for sure. When you look at the fact that McBride and Wilson are essentially 1A, 1B receivers here, but you're getting a 2-catch discount on Michael Wilson compared to McBride. You're getting a 12-yard discount on the yardage here as well. So I definitely would like to attack the low-hanging fruit there. I think the Cardinals will have some trouble maybe running the ball here, which is where I might look to Maury DeMercado's coming back. It might be a 3-way split between Bam Knight, DeMercado, and Michael Carter. So maybe looking to, like, once we get those lines up, when DeMercado is officially ruled in or out, of maybe betting a Cardinals running back under. Otherwise, I think I'm going back to Brissett over passing yards here too. He's hit that in like 5 or 6 straight games.
All right, let's go on to Sunday Night Football, the final game here for the pod, and that'll be the Texans at the Chiefs. Kansas City 3.5-point home favorites. Mackenzie, we talked about how this number was higher earlier in the week. It has gone down to 3.5, where that's pretty much where we would have it rating-wise. I still like the Texans getting north of a field goal.
It's going to be cold, and Fezzik brought this point up earlier in the week, and I think you can make the
indoor team going outdoors,
the
cold
Texans
weather.
live in nice warm weather, and in order to get to the Texans, you have to appreciate that fact and say, all right, these are even teams. Chiefs need the win. They're home at Arrowhead. I'm going to say Texans deserve the nod here. A lot of numbers say the Chiefs are still better than the Texans. Not by much, but by some. Maybe the Chiefs are a top 5 team, Texans top 7 team type situation. So I can explain the line, and I'll be more interested in Chris's prop thoughts as far from betting perspective.
Okay, I am going to give you a quiz, Mackenzie Rivers.
Right.
Okay, pop quiz, hot shot. You ready for this?
As ever.
Over the last 5 seasons, where do you think, amongst all home fields in the NFL, that where do you think Arrowhead ranks, Mackenzie?
Invesco?
in the last 5 seasons of home field
That's
advantage.
interesting, because obviously the Chiefs have been great. Home field advantage is not how great you are at home. It's how much better are you at home versus your road performance. And I still think it's substantial. I'm going to say top 5. They're a top 5. Arrowhead's a top 5 facility.
Second worst
All right.
in the league in the
Because
last
Andy Reid's so good on the
5
road.
years.
That's how you spin it. But yeah, that's definitely not what I expected.
The worst home field advantage in the last 5 years has been Mercedes-Benz Stadium, New Orleans Saints. The second worst home field advantage in terms of just points and the
Can you
margins
filter by
and all that
weather?
stuff.
Can you filter when it's chilly?
I
I
do
know
you want from
Miami
me,
went
bro?
there
What do
and
you want
got
from me?
their ass kicked in the playoffs. That might be stuck in my memory. And,
Right.
and the Texans went there in the winter last year and covered, but didn't win. It was a lot less. It was a lot more than a field goal back then.
So it is, I will say, in the last 16 games, though, it is top 10. So last 16 games, it is top 10. Last 5 seasons overall, though, it is the second worst. So I guess a couple of years ago, very, very bad performance there at home for Kansas City. So I think that's interesting to note there.
You said that's against the spread, or what's overall straight up?
No, it's not. It's not an ATS thing. It goes by Mackenzie. Can you explain it? It's the trend. It's the points per game, right? And that's how it works.
It's based on points per game, and it looks at how good you do overall, so your road and home performance, and then the differential from home to road. So it's So you could be undefeated at home and have a bad home field advantage if you're winning by more points on average on the road.
Yes, and also like this is also going by like the standard, which the standard has changed, right? Like standard 2.5 for being home doesn't exist anymore. 3 doesn't exist anymore. Like the league standard right now is significantly
1.5
lower
to
than that.
2.
It's about 1.5. Yeah, 1.5 to 2. But actually this year, if we're looking at what it is, it's about 2.28.
Oh, wow.
No, that's go by week. Actually, no, it changes week by week. I'd have to filter by season. But yeah, this season we had, it's been, 2023 got all the way down to a 1 point, like 1 point in 2023. Isn't that crazy? Now earlier, like let's go into the, early 2000s. I mean, we got to a height at one point where home field was worth 3.5 points in 2005. Crazy. Anyway, that's just a little insight there into that game. All right, Chris, final game here, the Sunday Night Football game, Texans and Chiefs. What props are you looking for?
Yeah, right. Super important game for both teams here. I can only look unders everywhere across the board. I think that I trust that both of these are above average defenses here, borderline elite defenses. You could definitely say that about the Texans. I think the Chiefs are there as well. Stroud under passing yards. I think what the weather factor, home field factor Mackenzie mentioned earlier there for sure. I think that number's way too high at 230.5. I think the Texans, they know they need to win this game with defense, which could slow things down a little bit and kind of reduce the pass rate by default for Houston here too. Woody Marks has really struggled with efficiency, even though he's seen a lot of touches in this backfield. He's barely been used as a receiver at all, even though that was his profile coming out of college. He almost split routes 50-50 with Nick Chubb last week, which is a weird coaching decision to make for Houston, but you can get his combined rushing receiving props at like 13 yards over. He hasn't really eclipsed double-digit yards in almost any game this season, receiving in a long time, especially as well. So I think Kareem Hunt and Pacheco under their rushing yards. We saw Kareem Hunt maintain those lead back duties. I think we could see it again. Kareem Hunt, he's not explosive, but he's actually very efficient on short yardage rushes. So I would probably look more to Pacheco under betting him again, because I don't know if they're going to give him the lead role. It's been a while since he's had that in Kansas City. I think you could say the same thing for Nick Chubb, rushing yards under. So I got a lot of unders for the running backs on both sides. Stroud under passing yards as well. Those are a lot of the areas I'm going to be looking at for the props that make my final card at the end of the week.
Great stuff. And for that final card, Chris, tell people about where they can get it up on Betting Predators.
Yeah, just go to bettingpredators.com. You'll see all the links there to sign up for our NFL premium player prop subscription. We'll basically go through every single game, either Friday or Saturday, once all the lines have moved, injury updates, etc. I'll wind up making plays on anywhere from 1, 2, or 3 props per game. We usually have a pretty big card. All to note between best bets, 1.5, 2 unit plus plays or larger, as well as some maybe long shot touchdown props mixed in there. So full betting prop card out every Saturday at bettingpredators.com. We've got our in-season rate going on the website right now for that.
And for you Better Day subscribers, we'll work on getting you a discount if you're interested in that. The prop sheet will be sent out Sunday morning for you Better Day subscribers to Insider and Premium members. And if you're listening to this pod on Saturday, always shop around, make sure you get the best of the lines for any of the props that we recommended here on this podcast. Make sure to hit us all up on social media. You can find Chris at Mad Journalist, 2 Ds in Mad. You can hit Mackenzie Rivers up at Mac and Rivers. I'm Scott Seidenberg at Scott's on Air. You can follow the website, bettingpredators.com for Chris, betterday.com for us here at Better Day. And enjoy week number 14 Sunday. And we'll talk to you next week right here on the Props Pod combo between Better Day and Betting Predators. Good luck, everyone.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.